Hello friends, in this video we are going to understand the importance of Laplace transform in control system. Let us begin. So now we are trying to analyze what is the importance of what is the motivation to have Laplace transform in control system. So mathematically, I'm sure you are already aware of a Laplace transform. Also, if you have seen the videos of signals and system, there the Laplace transform is explained very well in terms of system. Let us try to understand the importance of Laplace transform in the context of control system. Let's say you have some system with input x of t and output as y of t. Assuming the system to be LTI system, you know very well what LTI stands for. It is linear and time invariant system. What is meant by linear system? Very simple. The system which satisfies a superposition theorem is considered to be a linear system. And then what is meant by time invariant system? For example, a system whose properties are not going to change with respect to time are simply called as time invariant system. In fact, I would recommend to start with control system lecture. You must first of all see all the signals and systems lecture so that you understand what is exactly meant by LTI system, and you will see lot of problem which are basically taken to identify the type of system. So there the concept of LTI system gets clear. So assuming this is LTI system characterized by its impulse response as, let's say, h of t. So h of t is called as an impulse response. So you don't have to worry, I'll make you understand what is meant by impulse response and all. The only thing that you can keep in mind right now, that every system has got some characteristic, or every system has some behavior, the way it behaves to the applied input. Am I right? So this behavior is characterized by something called as h of t. So this h of t is going to tell you the whole thing about LTI system. It's fine. So you know what is input, you know, let's say what is impulse response. So let's say x of t, an impulse response is known to me, and the question mark for me is y of t. So I'm interested to see what is the value of y of t. Then it is simply related as, by mathematical way, y of t is always x of t convolution with h of t. This symbol is called as a convolution operator. In mathematics, like we have operator for multiplication, operator for addition, subtraction, division, etc. Likewise, there is one more operator called as a convolution operator. Let me tell you, this convolution operator is not simple multiplication. In fact, I can write my y of t as integrating over minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau. So interpretation of convolution can be taken as a product of x of tau with h of t minus tau and then integrating over it from minus infinity to infinity. Let me tell you, it involves integration. It involves certain procedure which needs to be carried out for having a convolution. And in fact, I would say convolution is a tedious procedure, and we don't want to analyze the system in a tedious way. Let's say if I want to have some method which will help me to analyze my system in a better way, then a Laplace transform is the only solution you have. So mark my words what I said. Let's say if x of t and impulse response was known to you, what was needed is y of t. But the only thing, y of t, x of t and h of t can be related by the mathematical expression that I have given. So this is the only way to get the output of system. That is x of t convolution with h of t. And to have convolution, as I said, you have to follow a tedious procedure. But since if we want to make our life easy for analyzing the system, then as I said, Laplace transform is the solution. So how Laplace transform becomes a solution over it? Let us see. So the relation that we had is y of t, which is x of t convolved with h of t. Using a Laplace transform tool, the function which is time dependent, after Laplace transform, it becomes function of s. Therefore, the Laplace of y of t becomes y of s equal to Laplace of x of t becomes x of s, Laplace of h of t becomes h of s, and let me tell you, by a property of Laplace transform, convolution becomes simple multiplication. Then ask yourself, what is easy for you, to carry out multiplication or to carry out an integration? Of course, answer is to carry out multiplication. So as I said, the Laplace transformation is a tool which is going to help to reduce your mathematical expressions. Like imagine if integration is converted into multiplication, you will see that even derivatives would be converted as a division form. So if integration becomes simple multiplication and if division becomes simple multiplication and division, then definitely you will feel that a Laplace transformation is a stronger tool. So, as I have written, Laplace transformation simplifies integration and derivation into simple division and multiplications. So, you can imagine, rather than going for integration and derivatives, if I get the option, I'll definitely go for divisions and multiplications. So, that's the reason why we switch to a Laplace transformation. Now, there are actually two tools, that is a Fourier transform as well as Laplace transform. The job of either Laplace transform or Fourier transform is to transfer your time domain signal to frequency domain signal. I repeat, to transfer your time domain signal to frequency domain signal. For example, if you have, let's say, f of t, and let's say if that f of t needs to be transferred to frequency domain, then as I said, you have two options, either Laplace transform or you can use a Fourier transform also. So after Laplace transform, f of t becomes f of s. Please remember, f of s is nothing but a frequency domain. Similarly, f of t, which is a time domain signal, using another tool called as a Fourier transform tool, you can convert it into f of omega, which is also a frequency domain. But since there are some limitations of Fourier transform, we go for Laplace transform. So limitations for Fourier transform is like Fourier transform cannot deal with unstable systems, or Fourier transform cannot deal with when signal becomes unbounded. So the signals which are unbounded or unstable system are very well taken care by Laplace transform, and therefore we go for Laplace transform and not for a Fourier transform. I hope this doubt will not be a doubt. In fact, these things are clearly defined while explaining the signals and system subject also. So when it comes to Laplace transformation, we have two types of Laplace transformation, that is, as I said, f of t signal, after having Laplace transform, it becomes f of s. And to get f of s, we have a mathematical formula for that. Like f of s, I can write equal to integrating over minus infinity to infinity f of t e to the power minus st dt, or we can use this formula, that is, rather than integrating from minus infinity to infinity, let's say if I'm integrating over 0 to infinity, I can write f of t e to the power minus st dt. Now in this case also you're going to get f of s. So there are two ways to get f of s from your f of t. So the very first integration from which you get f of s is called as a bilateral Laplace transform, and the second type is called as a unilateral Laplace transform. Now let me tell you, in control system we are going to prefer a unilateral Laplace transform. as you can see, the integration limit is starting from 0. It means we are avoiding all the times which are negative scale. Am I right? We are avoiding all the time scale which are negative. We are starting from 0 to infinity. What does that mean? I'm going to analyze my system from time equal to 0 and then towards a positive time. It means I'm not interested to see what was the initial conditions of the system or what was happening in a past of the system. So please understand, when it comes to negative time scale, it means you are talking about initial conditions of the system. So we believe that when I'm talking about a control system, in this, whatever systems that you are going to talk about would be initially relaxed system. It means a system with a zero initial conditions. When I say system with zero initial conditions, it means you are not at all interested to know what was happening before time equal to 0, and that's the reason why we don't go for a bilateral Laplace transform. In fact, a bilateral Laplace transform is used to determine the initial conditions, and definitely it is used in signals and systems. So if you have watched some videos on signals and system, there you will see we prefer the above formula, and the lower formula we generally prefer in control system because we are not interested to know what was happening in the system before time equal to 0. I hope now you got my point. What is meant by Laplace transform? What are the types of Laplace transform? The reason why we get introduced to Laplace transform, and the reason why we go for Laplace transform rather than a Fourier transform, which would otherwise a way to convert or way to transform your time domain signal to frequency domain signal. Now with this, we will further extend our discussion with the test input signals. So what is meant by test signals? See, as the name implied, it is a test signal. Means suppose you made some system, and now once you make some system, if you want to get it into market, before you bring that system into market and you start selling, first of all you need to test the system whether it is working properly or not, and then it is done by applying some standard test inputs. The reason why I'm saying these are standard test input, because with these possible inputs, if your system works properly, then any type of input it can handle in future. For example, we have standard test input. A very first standard test input is known as a unit impulse input, considered as del of t. And since we are looking at Laplace transform, let me tell you, the Laplace transform for del of t is 1. And not only Laplace transform, but even if you go for a Fourier transform for del of t is also 1. Laplace transform of del of t is also 1. And how this delta signal looks like? A delta signal looks like this, which is only present at t equal to 0 and which is always 0 when t is not equal to 0. This is how delta signal looks like. We write 1 over here. It just indicates the area of that unit impulse signal is equal to 1. So this delta signal, which is in time domain, after it goes in frequency domain, by having its Laplace transform, it becomes 1. The second type of input that we are going to see is unit step, designated as u of t. It looks like this. So the speciality of u of t is that u of t is always have amplitude equal to 1 for t greater than 0, and for t less than 0 it is always 0. Such kind of input is known as a unit step input, which is also considered as a standard test signal. So the Laplace transform for u of t is 1 by s. You have to remember this. Third input, we go for a unit ramp input. This is a unit ramp input designated as r of t. The reason why it is called as unit, because the slope of this line is considered to be 1, and its Laplace transform, it's simply 1 upon s square. Please understand, this is called as a unit ramp input whose Laplace transform is 1 upon s square. There is one more standard test input which is not that popular, but you should know, called as a unit parabolic input designated as p of t. So it just looks like a parabola. I would say rather increasing exponential signal, and its Laplace transform, it's simply 1 upon s cube. So of course we are going to see those standard test inputs in detail, but then in this lecture we are just going to see them on introductory level. That is, a unit impulse signal has a Laplace transform as 1, unit step signal has a Laplace transform as 1 upon s, a unit ramp signal has a Laplace transform as 1 upon s square, and unit parabolic input has a Laplace transform as 1 upon s cube. Now the question begins, how it becomes a test input, how it is going to test your system. See, let me tell you, as I said, that as an engineer you have designed your system, you know how system works. Before you really bring that system into market, it is your duty that you should actually test your system in the laboratory by applying different kinds of input. And the reason why they are called as a standard test input, because of their nature itself. For example, let me talk about an impulse input. So if you look at impulse input, how it looks like, it looks like a signal which is present instant only. It is present only for a small instant, and after that it is zero. So for example, if you want to really test your system in such a way that you apply some sudden input, and that sudden input lasts only for a certain time, and then you withdraw your input immediately, and then you have to see how your system really behaves to it. It is like a jerk or a vibration which is applied to the system only for a short moment of time. So unit impulse input becomes a test input because it observes how your system behaves to the input which is applied suddenly and withdrawn within a short moment of time. It's fine. So this is how your unit impulse signal can be considered as a standard test input. So this is a kind of input which is given to the system, and then the behavior of the system is observed, and then we come to know how system really reacts to such input. The second input is called as a unit step input. As you can see, the behavior of unit step input, that it was 0 initially, but suddenly within a short time it becomes 1, and then it remains 1 forever. So we want to see, what if the input is applied suddenly, it changes to a particular amplitude, and then it remains constant. Then for a constant amplitude signal, how system really reacts with. And for that purpose, we use a unit step input as a standard input. So just to see how system behaves for constant input, we go for unit step signal. Now let me talk about unit ramp signal. So students generally ask me, sir, we talk about a system with a BIBO stability, that is bounded input and bounded output. So it is our duty to apply always bounded inputs, am I right? As you can see, the ramp input is actually approaching towards infinity. So at some time, it will approach to infinity. In a way, a ramp input is an unbounded input, am I right? So even if it is unbounded input, how do I say it is a standard test input? So I'll just clear out what is the reason of applying a ramp input as a standard test input. See, practically, I'm not going to really shoot this ramp signal to infinity, am I right? But then I'll make sure that this ramp input starts with 0, and then it goes in a linear increase fashion. So I want to see my system, how it behaves if linearly increasing input is applied as an input. Then I want to see what is the behavior of the system, because see, you have to study behavior of the system in certain ways, and by observing those reactions of the system, then you will characterize your system, or you will define your system, or you can put some limitations of the system, which you will tell your customers in advance how it really behaves and what are the limitations of the system. So a unit ramp input is used for what purpose? To see how system behaves for linearly increasing input. And then unit parabolic input is also unbounded, but then if the input is not increasing linearly, but let's say it is increasing exponentially, then how your system behaves? For that purpose, we apply a parabolic input. So just to see how system reacts to exponentially increasing input. So please remember these four standard test input, which is basically called as test input because it is going to check how your system behaves for certain amount of input or certain input is applied. So what you have to remember, the all names of standard test input along with their Laplace transform. That is, don't forget, for del of t, Laplace transform is 1. For u of t, Laplace transform is 1 by s. For ramp signal, Laplace transform is 1 upon s square. And for p of t, that is unit parabolic input, the Laplace transform is 1 upon s cube. So these are certain things that you should remember, because when we will start with the problems and if you encounter such inputs, then you should know what are their respective Laplace transform. And then we have two more inputs, that is sine omega t and cos omega t. So for sine omega t and cos omega t, even they are sinusoidal. So both the signals are a sinusoidal signal with just a minor phase shift difference between sine and cos, but both of them are basically oscillatory signals, am I right? So both the signals are bounded signals, and since they are bounded signals, we can just and apply them and we can check behavior of the system. Generally, sine omega t and cos omega t are used in frequency domain analysis of the system. I repeat, these two signals are basically used to test the system under frequency domain analysis of the system. So you can just mark it, and when we'll actually start with frequency domain approach, I'll get back to this concept. So for now, what is really important is to know their Laplace transformation of each signal. So for sine omega t, the Laplace transform is simply omega upon s square plus omega square, and for cos of omega t, the Laplace transform is s upon s square plus omega square. As you can see, denominators for both the transformation is same. Only thing that you have to remember, for cos omega t we have s in the numerator, and for sine of omega t you have omega in the numerator. You shouldn't get confused. Now let us see some important properties of Laplace transform and then we'll conclude this lecture. So we'll see first property. For example, if you have signal f of t, which is a time domain signal, and if you take a Laplace transform of f of t, it becomes f of s. For example, if you multiply your f of t with e to the power minus at f of t, then its Laplace transform is simply f of s plus a. So e to the power minus at times f of t will have a Laplace transform as f of s plus a. So I'm sure you must have seen this property even in mathematics as well as in signals and system. In fact, in signals and system, this property we have learned in detail. But provided, let's say, if you have not studied Laplace transformation in mathematics also, or you have not studied signals and system also, then this lecture would give you enough clarity for Laplace transformation, or to such extent that you can use it at least in control system. As you can see, and you must know that this is a frequency domain. Whenever you say f of s or f of omega, it is called as a frequency domain. So what is happening in frequency domain? It is doing s plus a, okay? Or for example, if we have, let's say, e to the power at f of t, then its Laplace transform is f of s minus a. So what is happening in frequency domain? Either it is shifting by a or it is shifting by minus a, and this is called as a frequency shift property. Therefore, the first property, since the frequency shifting is taking place, that f of s is changed to either f of s plus a or f of s is changed to f of s minus a, then this is called as a frequency shift property. So one thing you can remember, the shifting is taking place in one domain, then in the other domain, as you can see, it is multiplied with exponential term. As you can see, here it is multiplying with exponential term, or vice versa. You can remember, in a particular domain, if the signal is multiplied with some exponential stuff, then what happens in other domain is shifting. Like if you are transforming in frequency domain, then it is a frequency shift. If you are transforming in time domain, then it is a time shift. So likewise, we have a frequency shift property, we have a time shift property also. So let's see a time shift property. Again, I'll start with this. If f of t's Laplace transform is f of s, then what is the Laplace transform for f of t plus a? And what is the Laplace transform for f of t minus a? As you can see clearly that your time shifting is taking place now. F of t is changed to f of t plus a, or f of t is changed to f of t minus a. So what is happening over here? This is called as a time shift. So you know that if the shifting takes place in one domain, what happens in other domain? In other domain, it gets multiplied, or your original function gets multiplied with exponential term. Therefore, the Laplace transform for this is simply e to the power as times f of s. And here the Laplace transform is your f of s again gets multiplied with the exponential term because shifting is taking place in time domain, that is e to the power minus as. So what is happening here is this is called as a time shift property. Only one thing that you should know, rather I would say you should notice, if we have a negative exponential here, we have plus a here. If we have plus at here, we have minus a here. This is happening in frequency shift. But what happens in time shift? We take it as it is. That is, for plus a, we have positive a here. For minus a, we have negative a here. So you should not forget that. In frequency shift, we take exactly reverse. In time shift, we follow as it is. So for advance, that is plus a, we take positive exponential term, and for negative a, that is for delay, also we take negative exponential. So you should only remember this. And now, very important property. Let's say if you have f of t as a function of time, whose Fourier transform, I should say a Laplace transform, is f of s. Then let's say if you take a derivative of f of t, that is d by dt of f of t, then what is a Laplace transform? Then it is simply s times f of s minus small f of 0. Please try to understand this. F of s is nothing but this f of s only. Okay, s is nothing but a Laplace variable, and as you can see, it is small f of 0. It means it is actually f of t calculated at t equal to 0. It is called as an initial condition. So this f of 0 is called as an initial condition. As I said, most of the time we prefer a system with no initial condition or initial condition to be equal to 0. In case if initial conditions are said to be equal to 0, then d by dt f of t will have its Laplace transform as simply s times f of s. It's very simple. See, we have two possible formulas. Either it is s f of s minus small f of 0, where small f of 0 is f of t at t equal to 0, called as initial condition. But in case if initial condition is 0, then you can deduct the second term and you can just simply write d by dt f of t as having a Laplace transform equal to s times f of s. It's very simple. For example, let's say if you have a d square by dt square f of t, then its Laplace transform is written this way: s square times f of s minus s times f of 0 minus f dash of 0. Try to understand. F of 0 is nothing but your f of t at t equal to 0. F dash, please understand, whenever there is a dash, it indicates it's a derivative term. So f dash means it is df of dt, that is df of t by dt when t is equal to 0. This is called as f dash of 0. And let me again tell you, this f of 0 and f dash of 0 are again called as initial conditions. And as I said, if initial conditions are equal to 0, I would say f of 0 is also 0 and f dash of 0 is also equal to 0, in that case a Laplace transform is simply s square times f of s. I hope you got this point. So this is how you should remember, even for a derivative term, how to handle in Laplace transform. Once you understand these theories or once you understand these properties, then it is easy for you to solve the problems which are based on a Laplace transform. In next video lecture, we will solve some problems on Laplace transform so as to get the comfort in Laplace transform, because if you are not comfortable with Laplace transform, you cannot deal with this subject, right? Thank you.